Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
Less than a year into our new home, and we were already slapped with an $8,000 bill to fix a soil erosion problem that apparently had been lingering for years. We weren't the first homeowners to be hit with this issue, but from the way the HOA was carrying on, you'd think they had done everything by the book. Yet here we were, expected to pay thousands for a mess we didn't even cause, without so much as a nod of responsibility from anyone who actually played a role in it. When we first moved in, everything seemed perfect. The house was beautiful, the neighborhood was quiet, and we were excited to start our new life here. We knew there was an HOA, but we didn't think much of it. Sure, there were some rules to follow, but we figured it was a small price to pay for a well-maintained community. But then, about 6 months in, we got the news that would turn our world upside down. There was a problem with the retaining wall that ran along the edge of our property. Apparently, the builder who constructed it years ago did a horrible job, and now we were facing serious soil issues that were causing damage to multiple properties in the neighborhood. At first, I couldn't believe it. How could something like this happen? And more importantly, why were we responsible for fixing it? We hadn't even lived here when the wall was built. But as we dug deeper into the situation, we realized just how complicated and frustrating it all was. The HOA called an emergency meeting to discuss the issue. I remember walking into that room, feeling a mix of anger and anxiety. The board members were seated at the front, looking grim, while the rest of us homeowners filled the chairs, murmuring amongst ourselves. As the meeting began, the HOA president stood up and cleared his throat. "I know this isn't news any of us wanted to hear," he started, "but we're facing a serious problem with the retaining wall that needs to be addressed immediately." He went on to explain that 2 independent geotechnical companies had reviewed the situation and confirmed that the problem was with the soil, not due to any recent landscaping work. The wall was at risk of collapse, and if we didn't act soon, the damage could be catastrophic. I raised my hand, my voice shaking slightly as I asked, "But why didn't we know about this when we bought our house? Shouldn't this have been disclosed?" The president sighed. Unfortunately, the plan for fixing the wall wasn't finalized until this year. Legally, we weren't required to inform potential buyers of this upcoming project until it was officially approved. I felt my blood boiling. How convenient for them, I thought. We would never have bought this house if we'd known about this looming expense. As the meeting continued, more details emerged. The total cost of the repair was estimated at $800,000, which meant each homeowner would be responsible for $8,000. And to make matters worse, insurance wouldn't cover any of it. "But what about the original builder?" someone else asked. "Can't we sue them for their shoddy work?" The HOA's lawyers stepped in at this point. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations has passed for suing the original builder. We've explored all legal avenues, and there's no recourse there. The room erupted in angry shouts and protests. I sat there, stunned, as the reality of our situation sank in. We were on the hook for $8,000. And there was nothing we could do about it. As if the situation couldn't get any worse, another bombshell dropped. An anonymous letter had been circulated among the residents, revealing that one of the HOA board members had performed landscaping work in the area near the retaining wall. The letter suggested that this work might have contributed to the erosion problems. The board quickly denied these allegations, insisting that the geotechnical reviews had confirmed the problem was with the soil itself, not any recent landscaping. But the damage was done. Trust in the HOA board was shattered, and tensions in the community were at an all-time high. Over the next few weeks, our neighborhood became a hotbed of rumors and accusations. Some residents formed a group to try and fight the assessment, arguing that the HOA had been negligent in maintaining the wall. Others blamed the city, insisting that they should take responsibility for approving the original construction. We reached out to the city ourselves, hoping they might offer some assistance or at least share some of the financial burden. But their response was swift and definitive. They denied any responsibility for paying for the repairs. According to them, this was a private matter between the HOA and the homeowners. As the days turned into weeks, the stress of the situation began to take its toll. My partner and I found ourselves arguing more, snapping at each other over little things. The $8,000 bill loomed over us like a dark cloud, threatening to derail all our financial plans. We tried to explore other options. We looked into personal loans, considered asking family for help, even thought about putting it on credit cards. But no matter how we crunched the numbers, it was going to be a significant financial hit. Meanwhile, the neighborhood was falling apart. What had once been a friendly community was now divided into factions. There were those who reluctantly accepted the assessment and just wanted to get the repairs done. Others were determined to fight it tooth and nail, even if it meant legal action against the HOA. The tension was at every HOA meeting. Voices were raised, accusations flew, and more than once, security had to be called to keep things from getting out of hand. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, and we were all passengers unable to escape. As the deadline for payment approached, we had to make a decision. After many long, stressful conversations, we decided to bite the bullet and pay the assessment. It wasn't ideal, but the alternative, facing potential legal action from the HOA or watching our property value plummet if the wall collapsed, seemed worse. The day we wrote that check for $8,000 was one of the hardest of my life. It felt like we were being punished for someone else's mistakes, forced to pay for problems we had no part in creating. But we did it, hoping that at least now we could move on and put this nightmare behind us. But even after the payments were collected and the repair work began, the atmosphere in the neighborhood remained tense. Trust had been broken, not just between residents and the HOA board, but between neighbors as well. People who had once been friends now avoided eye contact when passing on the street. The repair work itself was a constant reminder of the whole ordeal. For months, our peaceful neighborhood was filled with the sound of heavy machinery and construction crews. The once beautiful landscape was torn up, replaced by mounds of dirt and stacks of building materials. As I watched the work progress day by day, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved that the problem was finally being addressed. The thought of that wall collapsing and causing even more damage was terrifying. But on the other hand, every time I saw those workers, I was reminded of the $8,000 we had to pay, money that we had been saving for a family vacation or home improvements. The whole experience has changed my perspective on homeownership, especially when it comes to HOAs. What once seemed like a minor inconvenience now feels like a potential financial time bomb. I find myself constantly worrying about what other hidden issues might be lurking, what other unexpected expenses we might face. It's not just about the money, though that's a big part of it. It's about the loss of control, the feeling that major decisions about our home and our finances can be made without our input or consent. It's about the breakdown of community, the way this one issue has turned neighbors against each other. As the repair work nears completion, I can't help but wonder what the long-term effects of this ordeal will be. Will our property values recover? Will the community ever heal from the divisions this has caused? And most importantly, will we ever feel truly secure in our home again? I know one thing for certain. I will never, ever buy a house with an HOA again. The supposed benefits, well-maintained common areas, consistent property values, pale in comparison to the potential risks and headaches. I'd rather have full control over my property, even if it means dealing with the occasional unkempt lawn next door. Looking back, I wish we had done more research before buying this house. I wish we had asked more questions, dug deeper into the HOA's history and finances. But hindsight is 20/20, and all we can do now is learn from this experience and move forward. As I sit here, looking out at our newly repaired retaining wall, I can't help but feel a mix of relief and lingering resentment. Yes, the immediate crisis has been averted, but at what cost? Not just financially, but in terms of our peace of mind, our sense of community, our trust in the systems that are supposed to protect us as homeowners. I know we're not alone in this. Across the country, countless homeowners are dealing with similar issues, caught between the promise of suburban living and the reality of HOA politics. It's a system that often seems to benefit everyone except the actual homeowners it's supposed to serve. For now, we're stuck here. Moving isn't an option, not after sinking so much money into this place. All we can do is hope that things improve, that the community can heal, and that no more nasty surprises are waiting around the corner. But one thing's for sure, the next time we buy a house, we'll be looking for one thing above all else: no HOA. Because sometimes, the price of perfect neighborhoods and manicured lawns is just too high. Give me a house with a bit of character, a neighborhood with some personality, and the freedom to make my own decisions about my property any day. As I finish writing this, I can hear the last of the construction equipment being packed up. The retaining wall is fixed, at least for now, But the real damage, to our bank accounts, to our community, to our faith in the system, that might take a lot longer to repair. All we can do now is hope for the best and be a lot more cautious in the future. Because in the world of homeownership, especially with HOAs involved, you never know what might be lurking just beneath the surface. If there was one thing I knew for sure, it was that this HOA would continue to take advantage of us at every turn. They had their claws in deep, and they weren't about to let go. We were at their mercy, forced to play along in their twisted game, with no hope of ever coming out on top. C1. The city is correct that they are not responsible for the erosion. But since it's come to light the landscaping work was done by one of the board members, that would be a conflict of interest. I would speak with everyone in the HOA and try to have an informal meeting where everyone agrees to file a class action lawsuit against the board member for the faulty work, and having a conflict of interest in voting for themselves to do the work for the HOA doesn't mean you'll be successful in your lawsuit, but you have nothing to lose considering what's happening. Either way, sell your house and get the hell out of there. HOAs are evil and suck the life out of you. C2. Pretty messed up considering the city forces the developers to have the HOA, doesn't make sure the HOA is doing things correctly, and then passes all future responsibility off onto the HOA. Lazy cities make for terrible HOAs. All cities are lazy as they are typically hard anti-development. C3. It still could be a try if the HOA goes after them. We had an issue with defective shingles the roofer used and ultimately sued the roofer and manufacturer, almost 10 years after the installation, and they wound up settling. Only thing our HOA did was send a letter from the lawyer and file the lawsuit. It was about $4,000, but the community received $87,000.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.